Hey, it's Jake from Ford Bronco Parts. I have Kevin here with us. He's one of our employees here. We have his 73 Bronco in. It's an uncut Bronco, and he's decided it's time to cut it. So we're going to go over a quick tutorial on how to put in our UltraFlex flares. The first thing is you'll want to get your flares out. Grab yourself a pencil or some type of marking device that you can get rid of. A tape measure, and it's nice to have an extra set of hands. So Kevin and I'll get started on this. First thing you want to do is get your flare held up, lock it in place, and what we're looking for is this body line and the top of the fender you want running parallel with one another. And then the other thing is you'll want to center your wheel well opening with your wheel, and you want the rear portion of the flare and the front portion of the flare to look appropriate to your wheel and the contour of your Bronco. So usually I'll go ahead and measure off the line where the rocker panel and the rear quarter meet, and then the rear portion of the flare where it goes over the body line here, usually it'll end up coming down just in front of the taillight housing. So we're going to go ahead, hold this up into place, take some measurements, make sure it's equal from here to here so it's not running at an angle, and we'll go ahead and mark out a template, and we'll come right back with you guys after we do that. Alright, we're back at Kevin's Bronco. We have our top line that we made when we held up the flare and traced the outer edge of the flare. From there we measured down approximately 1.5 inches and drew in our cut line. You can just draw this in by hand, and this will be the line that you actually cut, saving this material to mount the flare against. So as you can see when we hold up the flare here, there's a good even gap front to back on the flare so it's not sitting at an angle. Center of the flare drops to the center of the wheel. So what we'll do is we'll start this process on the other side, make our marks there, and then we'll come back and show you the tools we use to cut it out and our cut process. Alright, you can see it makes a nice clean cut. Obviously you wouldn't want to do this to a freshly painted Bronco, but that's why we're doing it to Kevin's before he gets it painted, mock everything up. The bit itself, you can see basically the sheet metal rides in between the two tangs, and it's just peeling the small strip along the line where we marked for the fender flares. So we'll let Kevin finish this up and I'll show you a finished product. Okay, we're over here on the driver's side where Kevin's done the cutting with the air hammer and the chisel bit. You can tell it's a nice clean cut. Everything's marked inside the line of the contour of the flare. We'll go ahead, hold the flare up. You'll want to start your screws on the flare in the center and work your way outward, making sure that this body line is level here to the flare. And we'll show you that process once he gets that started, pulled back in the shop. Okay, so we're back here at Kevin's Bronco, and what we've done is we have held the flare in place, and as you can see, I started the top dead center screw, and that'll allow us to kind of pivot the flare slightly, make sure everything is squared up. You know, make sure that your gap here to the body line and here to the body line is very similar, so it's riding parallel with the body. So we'll go ahead and screw the next two out, then we'll pull the flare off and get the welting behind it, and we'll start at the center again, and basically we'll drape the welting down as we go, screwing each hole. Personally, I don't do a pilot hole. Their screws that are provided are a self-drilling, self-tapping screw. You can see one here. Kevin has one in his hand. It does have the drill bit tip on it. So basically we'll start our process of just working our way outward each way, making sure that the body line in the rear is correct with the mold of the flare and that it's going to wrap around the bottom. We'll come back and show you guys a side of the flare when we're done. All right, we're back here at Kevin's Bronco. We started in the center with the screws. He worked his way forward. Now we're headed down the back edge and wanted to show you guys what we do with the welting. The welting, as we go, you know, we'll push it into place. It's easiest if you drape it over the front edge of the flare. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep pushing this in, feeding it in a little at a time, making sure that the welting lip is sitting against the flare. And Kevin's gonna go ahead and screw that in. It's crucial not to over tighten them. You wanna make sure that you get a good bite, but you're not distorting the flare or, you know, stripping out the head. So if you have a good clean bit and just take your time and go easy, work your way down, making sure your flare is, you know, fitting the contour of the Bronco and that the welting is fitting in appropriately, and you can see how it's going to look when you're done. Okay, so this is the finished product of Kevin's flares. He's had them on now for a little bit, and you know, he's used them. They're a great way to give yourself a bit more tire clearance, especially if you're going to be using your Bronco off-road. If you have any questions, give us a call. Tom's Bronco Parts, 1-800-749-5028.